Welcome to Everyday Counseling, a podcast about understanding emotional patterns as they show up in everyday life. In this episode, we're looking at how early experiences quietly shape the way people respond later on, often without them realizing it. When people notice that the same reactions keep appearing at work, with a parent, or with a sibling, it can feel puzzling. The situations are different, the people are different, yet their emotional responses feel familiar. That familiarity usually comes from learning that happened earlier, long before the current situation existed. Early experiences don't need to be dramatic to leave a mark. What shapes emotional responses most are repeated patterns: how tension was handled, how closeness felt, how mistakes were responded to, how attention was given or withdrawn. A child learns very quickly what keeps things steady. It Staying quiet reduced conflict, quiet became useful. If taking responsibility brought approval, responsibility became familiar. If reacting quickly gained attention or protection, strong reactions made sense. These responses weren't chosen consciously, they were learned through experience. And once learned, they tend to stay available. Later in life, when something feels familiar enough, the same response is activated, not because the present moment is identical, but because it carries a familiar emotional tone. You might notice this in how your body reacts before your mind has caught up. A sudden tightening, a pull to explain yourself, a strong urge to withdraw. The reaction happens quickly because it's based on recognition, not analysis. This is why people often say they know they're overreacting, but can't seem to stop it in the moment. Awareness alone doesn't undo learning that happened through repetition. Another important piece is context. Early learning often happens in environments where options were limited. A child couldn't leave, couldn't negotiate power, couldn't choose distance or closeness freely. Responses developed within these constraints. Later, those same responses show up in situations where more choice exists, but the body hasn't yet updated its expectations. You might see this at work with authority figures or with older family members, or in friendships where expectations feel unclear. The reaction isn't about the current power dynamic alone, it's influenced by earlier experiences of how power felt. What's interesting is that early learning doesn't just shape reactions under stress, it also shapes what feels normal. Some people are comfortable with closeness, others feel more at ease with space. Some expect to manage things alone, others expect support. None of these things are right or wrong, they're learned orientations. The difficulty arises when these orientations are mismatched with the present situation, when someone expects independence where collaboration is needed, or closeness where boundaries are required. The tension that follows can feel confusing. Understanding that these patterns were learned can soften self judgment. Reactions stop feeling like personal failures and start looking like habits that once had a purpose. The perspective also explains why change can feel slow. You're not just changing behavior, you're updating learning that was reinforced over many years. Change happens through new experiences rather than insight alone. Each time a different response is possible, even briefly, the system takes note. Over time, these experiences accumulate. You might notice this when you respond differently in one small moment. You speak up once when you usually stay quiet. You pause before reacting. You allow discomfort without fixing it immediately. These moments matter. They don't erase old patterns, they expand the range of responses available. As people gain more emotional flexibility, earlier patterns don't disappear, they simply stop being the only option. That's often enough to change how situations feel. What's important to remember is that early learning explains patterns, but it doesn't define destiny. The system remains capable of learning throughout life. As we move into the next episode, we'll explore why certain situations feel especially activating and how closeness, authority, and expectation can amplify these early patterns in everyday life.